I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. The time now is 6:30. And rather than follow the agenda exactly as it is, since we have so few people here, I'm going to switch it around a little. We have two guests here tonight who are basically are thinking of opening a business in Tilton. And so what they're going to be talking with us about, what that business will be, it'll be somewhat of a conceptual. Dari said since we didn't have anybody in the agenda tonight, it might be a good time for them to come in and we can talk about what we might want. So I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Awesome. My name's Chad Vaughn. This is Marcus O'Neill. Marcus owns the building. We're partners in the business.
And what's the location?
The location is 276 Main Street. Pretty much the concept that we had in mind was just pretty much a takeout burrito place.
Takeout.
You know, but dine in or takeout.
Oh.
Seating, by all means, but if you wanted to come in and come to a counter and say, hey, I want my burrito, a taco, a quesadilla, or whatever the case be, you can come in and get it and you can go, or you can sit down and enjoy it there. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Our main purpose for being here with you today is to determine what exactly, when I was looking over the sheet with Dari this afternoon, we both kind of came to the conclusion that it's kind of geared towards, or seems that way, to be geared towards someone who bought land and then is going to build a place. Where it's already an established building, we just wanted some clarification on to what is applicable, what isn't, and kind of, you know, what we need to do to satisfy whatever the town may require. Because first and foremost, our main goal is to be a part of the community and to satisfy, or to express willingness to satisfy any needs the town may have, you know, concerns about. And we're willing to accomplish those hands down. You know, the Tilton is a great area. It's thriving. I definitely think it's on the upswing. There's a lot of exciting things happening. You know, whether it's real estate, you know, the sprawl, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things coming on in this area, and I feel, and Marcus is, you know, we're like-minded. It's a good time, you know, to open a business, and we think the location is fabulous, and we think downtown is ready to support. I mean, you know, it's a 3,500 square foot building, but we're not going to open that big of an establishment. We're just focusing on half of it. We're not so sure about what's going to come in the other half. You know, it just seems to be a huge space and a lot of, you know, time and money at the beginning to do something like that. So we figured we would start small and see what happens. He's committed to buying the building already. So, you know, that's more of a long-term thing, obviously. But we're very excited either way. And, you know, we just want to make sure that we express our willingness to not only comply with this, but to go above and beyond if necessary, whenever necessary.
Good question. Which building is it?
Okay, so this is another issue. If you go onto the tax card.
That's why I'm now, and I'm like,
Yeah,
That's what he's trying to find out now.
yeah, so this is kind of an issue. 276 Main Street, you know, on the tax cards, and officially is the old PAT system, that building, with the big glass windows. At some point, there was somebody that probably owned that building, plus the 16-room white building. And he started a business called 276 LLC. And for some reason, to the right of our building is 274, to the left of our building is 278. So we're 276. That's where it belongs.
So your big white building, you're talking about Independence Hall, is what they call it. Isn't that what they call Independence Hall?
We're in between one of the salons and the Barrett's auction house.
Okay.
So we're the big gray building with the vinyl side. It's been vacant for quite a few years now. So, but to the left of the
Correct.
auction house, for some
Correct.
reason, somebody put 276 on that white building. And in the town records, that is 272.
Well, the
So-
fire, I think you have the records of the 911 when
Yeah, I
they
mean,
set it up, so.
The state, we all are in agreement that it needs to be addressed. It's not easy. It's getting it right it's very important, but it's also very difficult to get people to change their address.
Well, to me, you know, if somebody drives downtown and they're going 272, 274, 276, it should make, like, and we want to start a business, we want to be able to get our mail, and to me, I don't know why somebody would put 276 on their building when their address is 272. And
I think for a long, I think you have to think back before there was 911, and probably when Tilton was very small, there might not have even been, some of those buildings may not have even been there.
right,
I think you have to go back, way back in history.
okay.
That should have been corrected, however, when the 911 changes were done, which was what, that was 2 years ago, I believe.
Before I was here, you said,
Yeah.
right, I don't know how long.
So it should have been corrected then.
Right.
But it's been vacant for about that long.
That wouldn't make any
Here.
difference in
No, I know.
There's
terms
probably
of.
10,
No.
sorry.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be resolved, however it's gonna be resolved, to me, it's just, you should be able to drive down the street and they should be in numerical order. But if you guys wanna assign us
Yeah.
2,472,000.
I was trying to look it up so I could
We'll just
see
get
what
Q.
number.
Yeah,
Have you talked with Lakes Region Planning at all?
we've spoken here with the town, and then we also spoke with the post office. We don't know where to go to resolve. This seems like a crazy issue.
The
Yeah,
town-
everyone's going like this.
Yeah,
You
The
know,
town,
everyone's-
the reason I'm bringing it up, the town pays dues and we give a contribution to the Lakes Region Planning. And they have a group that works with businesses in terms of what is feasible in a certain area.
oh, okay.
I don't wanna say to you, geez, this is what you would do to open a taco place or a burrito place when there are already several restaurants in the downtown area.
Right.
And from a marketing perspective, I don't know what you would be told, and Lakes Region Planning works with businesses all the time.
Yeah.
Do you have a contact there that,
No, I would have thought more, what is it, Belknap County Economic Development would have been,
well, I know that Lakes Region, I thought Lakes Region Planning had a group that did work with people.
Yeah, I suppose Mike Hazard would be a good one to contact there. But I will say it does sound like these guys have you know, put some thought into this. And I
Yeah.
think maybe they're ready to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the town here, this is my 11th year in Tilton. I work up at the school, and I just think we have a beautiful downtown with riverfront, and there's a lot of potential down there. So selfishly, I often have a craving for a burrito. If I want a burrito, I have to drive to Concord or Laconia.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to walk downtown and get a burrito. So that was my initial impulse in doing this. And I keep an eye on the real estate, and I love that building. It's got two beautiful glass fronts, and with the price drop. And I've been saying for years, I think we're 2 or 3 nice businesses in downtown Tilton away from making this a much cuter town, because I do think there's some great places. I think Polly's obviously is a great restaurant.
Has there ever been a restaurant in there?
I don't know, oh, there used to be a market in there. So there used to be a walk-in freezer, so there, but it wasn't a restaurant, no.
Florist.
There
Was in there.
yeah,
Florist?
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Hmm?
It was something like that, 2 businesses.
Yeah,
I think
no,
it was too,
yeah,
and I,
it's been split up, so that was our inclination was, we only need half of this space for this. And, you know, I've known Chad for a year, and he's a kind of a worldly restaurateur, and, you know, we were just, you know, so the price was right in the building that I've had my eye on here for a few years. I love burritos, I think other people do too, and,
I do.
we'd love to just add something to the downtown, because, you know, it's such a cute, charming, but in some ways underutilized downtown. Like, for me, sometimes I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm going, I want to get something to eat. But I'm so bad that I'll be like, I don't feel like going to that intersection up there. I wish I could just go downtown. And there are limited options in terms of downtown. And, you know, Tilton House Pizza, you know, there's great pizza, great restaurant, and there's a couple of Chinese places. We thought, let's bring, you know, one other option to the downtown. So, you know, we'd really love to do this.
Taco Bell didn't scare you, huh?
Oh, no.
We'd hope to take a
I
little
don't
different.
think,
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking the same one.
No, definitely not. I'm just being snotty.
So is it gonna be like burrito meat?
I would say it wouldn't be that far off in terms of concept from burrito meat. I think our dine-in options, we'd like to make it a little more welcoming, like, so if you want to come in, and you did want to sit down, you know, a place to sit.
Well, you have the room to even expand and be a Hermanos or a, you know, eventually too, so.
Right, yeah, so, you know, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. Yeah, we're thinking, after right now, and then,
Well, I know that El Jimador has been very popular here, and that's a long way to have to go
right,
to get the food.
yeah. Yeah, so I think we would be somewhere in between, like in terms of concept, we're somewhere in between burrito meat and El Jimador. And we love both of those places, so.
So are you gonna have regular dinners, or are you gonna have mostly like burritos and?
Well, you'll really get more than a burrito. You won't leave it with a burrito, but the other Mexican stuff is pretty easy to make with the same ingredients. So it won't be like burrito meat where you're standing there watching them make the burrito, but you order your food, you can sit down and wait for it, but it's gonna come quick, it's gonna come fast. So a little different service delivery, but the option is sitting in. So we want people that they feel like getting a burrito quickly, they can do that. They feel like sitting down, they can get that. And if somebody's on their way home from the gym and they want to pick up dinner for their family, they'll be able to do that.
With vegetarian options, with children options, kids menu, be very, it's gonna be a very, like a wide range of things, but, with the focus being on, the flagship burrito and, like a taqueria type deal. But it would be a small piece, it would be just like burrito meat, but just, a couple different things,
Dari, did you give them a copy of the application?
Yep.
I have it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Because that pretty much spells out what we'll be looking for.
right. So on this, so this is, it's an application form for subdivision and site plan. We just want to make sure that, there's a lot of things that we think aren't applicable, again, because they're for subdivisions. This is an application used for subdivisions and site plan, so.
But you need to do a site plan for the restaurant.
Right, yeah,
So there are going to be a lot of things that do apply there.
Right, the stuff that's
Yeah.
applicable, so if we just put not applicable to the stuff that has to do with subdivision, that's okay.
If you say why it's not applicable, in other
Right.
words,
Right.
we're not doing any new construction, something like that.
Correct.
Right.
And that's pretty much the purpose of, we're very thankful, by the way, that you could see us in such like a short notice, because we really did want to get this right the first time. So when I was looking at some things with Dari earlier, we just said, you know what, maybe it's a good idea if you come tonight just with some clarification. And because it looks like quite a few boxes might be not applicable to what we're doing. And in that, I didn't want you to think that there was some carelessness, you know, in that, like, okay, I don't think this applies, let me just check it off. But wanted to accompany, you know, that with saying, okay, this is why it doesn't apply, and making sure that in doing so, that satisfies the board.
That, as a matter of fact, prior to your coming, were having a discussion, I said, you know, this is something that we need to work on, because sometimes we don't get enough information on it. And people are, you know, we have to wait to get it correct. So one of the things I said to Dari is we have to make sure, by putting a disclaimer on there, that it has to be complete. In other words, if you put not applicable, you need to tell us why it's not applicable. Because we get a lot of them that it's just one after the other of not applicable.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're starting a restaurant, you're gonna have to do some work on a kitchen, for instance.
Absolutely.
You know, you're gonna have to, you know, connect to a sewer, you're gonna have to have,
Like a grease trap
contact
and
those
all that
people,
stuff, yeah.
you know, and they'll be able to give you more because of a grease trap.
Mm-hmm.
I know when we were putting together, for instance, the senior center, where we don't do any cooking. We have meals that are already prepared, that are brought in from Concord, but we had to have a grease trap. And we had to have a specific kind of grease trap. And if we hadn't had the sewer department come out and look at it, as a matter of fact, when we first put in the sinks, we did not have it. And it delayed us because we couldn't get acceptance because it wasn't in there. We had only had a 2-bay sink. You have to have a 3-bay
Three-bay,
sink. You know, we didn't know that.
And separate hand
I'm sure you
washing.
know that because
Oh,
you're, you know, you've been in a restaurant business, but we didn't know that. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be looking for,
Mhm.
or the sewer department will be looking for, health department will be looking for. One issue is parking. We're gonna be asking you some specifics about parking. Where are your customers gonna park? We require so many parking spaces per number of patrons that you're going to have there.
Okay, so when we get our occupancy from is the process, we get our occupancy from the fire
Code
department?
enforcement
Yeah.
And fire.
and fire department,
So
both.
they give us our occupancy, and then we have to account for parking if we're at full occupancy. Okay. That's easy enough.
Now, obviously, with that, there's only so much we can do with the space that we have, you know. You know, so that,
We can utilize the municipal lots.
correct, like, that's kind of like, oh, in addition to the support the town is, you know, we're grateful to have, you know, that you provide those things. We can also accommodate a certain amount of people in the back of our place. There is a small area, you know, that we could,
And just so you know, T-Hop, that area beside, that's a municipal parking lot.
Right.
really?
Yeah,
The
that's not,
Bank parking lot. Or,
no,
It's got the bank.
no. The bank parking lot is, part of that's municipal, I believe.
oh,
Mhm.
you're.
And then
Okay.
T-Hop has a lot right there beside it
Uh,
that I think a lot of people think is T-Hop's parking lot. It's not, it's a municipal parking
How
lot.
about across the street behind, you know, like where the fire department stuff is? that
That's a
muni-
municipal lot.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
There's a municipal lot off of, where Tilton Inn is,
Yeah,
there's a parking lot behind there. That's a municipal lot.
okay. Okay, great.
Getting back to the point that you were making before about things that might come up, you know what, and no matter how much experience I have or how much experience he has, when you're doing these types of things, something always happens. That's why I'm very grateful to be here today. Secondly, there is quite a bit of a span between, for example, you know, I need to have this submitted to you guys by November 20th to be heard on the 8th. Now, if things don't go well on the 8th, the next one is until January 20th. You know, so that's what we're trying to avoid, that lapse, because as a small business partnership, you know, that's a pretty big space to have to carry those utilities without being able to generate any income. So that's another thing we're concerned about, in addition to making sure that, like, our goal is to fit into this community, and not just fit in, but, you know, have a mutually beneficial relationship that can thrive for years to come. You know, that's the main goal. And another thing I wanted to ask you about is signage. You know, on the front of the building, there was a sign. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
What, the pets, this and that?
On the top of the building, there's some electricity that is already run out there
To the sign?
to some sort of sign that was there that is no longer there.
I think it's
Well, there's a
been while.
grandfather
It's
clause.
been a while since there's been a
Yeah.
sign up there.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the other things we're gonna talk about tonight is signage, because, there's been a recent court decision that impacts signage. It's a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah.
So we probably are gonna be making changes to our signing ordinance. It's hard to, and it's hard to say what those changes are gonna be too, so I can't, I don't mean to sound like we don't wanna give you an answer. We don't have the answer right now until we, I don't think, look at
Well, we
the
have a sign
implications of that.
ordinance.
Well, we do, but it's gonna change. It's gonna probably
hasn't
get
changed
thrown
yet.
completely, yeah.
By the time they are starting their business, do you think they're gonna change it like?
No,
No.
I mean, I think what Chairman Alden is saying is valuable, you know, but I'll say that, I have not heard of a business opening downtown that ran into issues where the sign ordinance kind of put them in a jam. Like, I think what the sign ordinance allows along Main Street should work for you guys. You know, you have, so much square footage of signage plus additional signs. We can review the ordinance. I'm pretty confident there's something that, if you look at the ordinance, the square footage that's allowed plus the additional signage, I'm pretty confident you guys will be able to come up with a proposal that meets that.
The only thing, when
Yeah.
you start mentioning wiring that goes to it, there are some restrictions in terms of lighted signs.
True, yeah.
So that, you need to be very careful.
Yeah,
Is that
we're
what you
not
were
gonna-
thinking?
No,
We're not
Sounds
putting
like
any
you
neon
would.
signs up in town. You know, and
Just lighted maybe?
just.
Correct.
so
Yeah,
you can see
like
it.
a top.
Yeah.
the vision is, it's gonna be,
Lights and
you know, without divulging too much or, you know, getting ahead of myself, you know, but we are very excited, so we talk, you know, and bottom
That's
line.
good. That's
So, I mean, the vision is, to be a very neighborhood, family, friendly place that is, you know, I mean, when it's all said and done, there's gonna be quite a bit of an investment happening there, you know, on the inside, on purchasing the building, you know, so, in doing so, I mean, the lighting, you know, the colors on the inside, the furniture on the inside is gonna be all custom. I mean, it's gonna be a very, very nice place. It's not gonna be like your cookie cutter, you know, Applebee's, Chili's. This is gonna be a very one-of-a-kind individual place. I mean, to give you an idea on one tabletop, he has a big oak tree, you know, we're thinking about milling ourselves and just, you know, kinda, you know, fabricating something to be very unique. It's gonna be very eclectic and, you know, rustic, but modern, you know, in a very, you know, a safe place to come and hang out and enjoy a burrito, you know.
Sounds great.
Yeah. What's the name of it? What's the name?
Rio Burrito. There's the rivers out back
Yeah.
and, you know, Rio in Spanish. is
Wish we
river.
could do something with that river, we can't.
Yeah.
Would, if they utilize their parking for customers, are they gonna have to go to DOT? Are they gonna have to go to DOT if they're gonna utilize
Yeah,
that parking
my
lot?
question is, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, they, essentially, you're saying they're changing the way they're using their driveway, then yes, yeah.
Well, there's a parking lot behind it. It's been-
What you should do, and, as Chad and I were talking about today, I guess if you would add that to the list of folks that you should get in touch with.
Gotcha, let's
DOT.
right here.
GOT District 3.
You know, when we spoke earlier today, much along the lines of what Chairman Aldis has been saying, I mentioned that, you know, talking about the checklist and the need for a written explanation for every single item that's marked off as non-applicable. We also talked about the value, as again, Chairman Walden just said, of contacting as many departments as possible in advance before you get here on the, at that meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
And Dari, and I think I can speak for Al too, will be more than happy and to help you in any way in answering any questions, specific questions you might have.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's been helpful. We don't want to take up any more of your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Oh, I wasn't doing that for you, I was doing that for her.
But it's, again, very grateful to be here. Thank you for seeing us in such a
Well, I
short
think it
notice.
sounds exciting.
It is exciting.
You know, I really hope that, you know, I'm very confident that we can come together and make sure this works, because that's what we want. You know, that's the goal, no matter what.
Are we gonna make any changes to the facade of the building as far as paint or?
It's
Not
a
yet.
little late in the year to get,
Like-
yeah, we're not gonna this week.
Or, okay,
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah. You know, I think we'll be able to get a nice sign up, but we probably are looking at the spring before we can paint, you know.
And again, Dari can lead you on the
Yeah.
sign, yeah.
color scheme.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the allowable colors.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, they,
No, that's, we don't have
Yeah.
that. We're kidding.
We're not gonna paint a Mexican flag. I mean, this is an Irish guy and an Italian, we're taking a shot here. But in the meantime, I mean, I'll be around, we're right across the street, it's very easy to, communicate.
Mm.
And as I get into this application process, if I have any questions, after I do my first couple, this is the NA, this is what I put for it, I'm gonna bring it to you to make sure that, okay, this is what they're looking for, okay, this isn't, and this would be better.
Yep.
Because our goal here is, on the December 8th meeting, is to be able to provide you with all the information you need, so we don't hold up any of the processes, because in the end, I mean, I think that's gonna be the goal for both parties, I hope.
So when do you want to open?
We're, put it like this, if everything works out on the 8th, we could be open a few weeks after,
So we'll be open by Christmas.
Things could,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
things could move along pretty quickly, and that's the goal, because it's like I said, it's an investment, and that we're more than willing to make. But we want to just make sure our paperwork's in order and the town's satisfied,
yeah.
we really are, despite what some people may tell you, pretty easy to work with, don't you think?
Yeah.
They are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Looking forward to
coming.
Thank you,
it.
it's very nice to meet everybody.
Nice meeting you all.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Build.
Thank you.
We worked
Yeah.
hard to get there.
Just like you do.
Irish
like-
pub would be good.
Yeah.
Irish
Nice
pub
to
would be
meet you.
good.
Good night. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right.
How are you?
That's-
Oh, thanks. All right, no problem. Have a nice
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Thank you
Oh,
so
oh, oh.
much.
No.
Yeah, it's a bad way to start.
No, that's a good way to start.
All right, you're safe, I just wanna make sure you're safe. Safe because of the situation in Franklin.
Oh, we're
Everything
fine
else,
enough
all
for
right.
winter.
There are colors, you know.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Oh, okay. I was kidding about the palette, but where is that from? Where?
I'm not sure, but
No.
aren't there colors, certain colors? I thought
They
that's
can
why.
be, because that,
Well, I think,
No.
but didn't he do that
Yeah,
because of
really.
that?
I thought there was a.
That's what I thought.
Unless it's a historic district.
I thought it was
It's not
a
a-
it's
It's built on
historic.
Historic district.
It's not? Okay.
national, it was a national place of historic place.
I thought it was.
In fact, that building years ago was pumpkin orange for a few weeks.
It was?
The owner was aggravated, painted it pumpkin.
That's
orange.
why Jim's shop is the color it is, because he was aggravated.
what? Is that what people do around
Because there was
here?
discussion
Oh, let's
about
paint
maybe
our
having
house.
Yeah,
regulation.
yeah, because
Which house is
of
that?
the
Natural
health
food store?
health food store.
So that was
Oh.
revenge paint?
Makes it
Gotta love it, right?
Oh my God.
But I just, there may be some, well, he'll find that out when he buys that building. Because that, I think there might be some issues construction wise.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not something that can't be, but I think
Right,
it has, it's set vacant for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And prior to that, it wasn't too well taken care of. I think is that the same person who owns the one across the street?
Hmm.
So, you know, that's my concern when he wants to open it that quickly, because he may run into some things that,
Well, maybe
You know,
we should just.
you know, well, it's not up to us. That's not up to us to
No, I know.
determine, but I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
saying, he might.
Oh, you put the stove
This
on.
looks
Hey,
like-
dude, somebody wants to.
Oh, years ago, at a flower shop, and then we had coolers all in there.
Well, that's what he was saying. That's what, was it your flower shop?
No.
I thought maybe it was, when he said it was a flower shop before.
Well, that was 20 years ago.
She's got fingers and everything.
And then it was Pat's, what was it before, after your flower shop and before Pat's this and
I
that?
would say I had a flower shop on one side, an antique shop on the other, then it went to a bridal shop in part. Furniture store, remember, what's his name's furniture, Rollins, had his furniture store there for a while. One of the youth organizations did a thing in there. It's been all kinds of things over the years. It's a cool building.
It is a very pretty building. I've always thought it was a pretty building.
Well, they're excited about the front, there's so much glass,
Which makes it
great
cool.
exposure, yeah, it's great exposure.
They remind me like they're gonna be like Chipotle's or something. Yeah.
My daughter calls it total.
Well, he said it's gonna be sort of a cross between that and El Jimador, and with the possibility, they're not gonna open up the whole thing
Yeah.
all at one time.
Just gonna do half.
And then one's Irish,
Are you
and one's Italian.
No, not
If anyone wants to be on,
Have at it.
So, we're gonna have lots of those? Or?
I don't know. I mean, they may, when Pat's this and that had it, their petitions, that's when I was in there are petitions in there, and the floor's got different levels and everything, so I think they could very easily put a wall up. Wouldn't be an issue. But, anyway,
It's exciting.
all right, they just came in because they were here, but something came,
I'm sorry,
we'll
I'm just
let's
saying,
move right on, so.
I'm just saying.
We were
somebody,
talking,
somebody,
we were talking before about the application, this was a good one to talk about it. We've had problems with that application for quite a while. And I don't think it's that not everything is on it, because it has on it sewer, it has on it water, it has, but what the problem has been is that people don't fill it out in its entirety. And so I think we can easily clean it up. And I think that may be something that you could do, Dari, just in terms of the order that it's in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I thought that we had addressed it. I felt like we had addressed it because I felt like the applications that have come in since we last talked about it, either they provided some explanation for everything that they didn't provide. But what I will say is they haven't, what I asked is I have been asking, saying, can you please have an itemized waiver request? Not just a waiver request that says we're not doing any site work, so please all the NAs accept them. I've been hoping more for a, they write, maybe if we I think somebody said if we numbered the checklist
Yeah.
and they could say 7.1, da-da-da. And so I'll be more strict on that if that's what you're,
And then put a disclaimer saying what you're saying
okay.
at the very beginning. Does that make sense to everybody?
A disclaimer saying what you're saying.
Yeah, she's saying that what we just talked about. A disclaimer saying if you're gonna check off NA, either submit a reason for this item, okay, like
Right.
7.1, and and then if there's also 7.3, another explanation for that one.
Okay.
And that should be, Chairman Alden, is that
Mm-hmm.
generally what you're saying? Okay.
Does everybody agree
Yeah,
with that?
so that everything's accounted for.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're not gonna provide it, it's either, you know, I won't go this far, but basically it's either not gonna make it to the meeting because I won't, I'll say, sorry, this is incomplete. You'll have to work on it more and hopefully you'll get it at next meeting. Or if it's right there and I'm like, really close, I might say, all right, fine, go to the meeting and then you guys can, if you're not happy, you can continue it and say nope, or not accept it. Sorry,
And if in the
application's not
dis-
accepted.
And if in the disclaimer we say, failure to follow these instructions could result in delaying approval of the site
I
plan.
like that, yeah.
Yes.
We're
I think
not,
that's-
we're not changing it to like
Right.
a minor to major site plan review, I mean.
I think that a separate checklist for minor, a different checklist for minor site plan review than the checklist for major.
Or maybe if it's on the same thing, but if it's a minor site plan review, you may not need
Complete
certain,
1 through 10.
you only need to complete 1 through 10, and if it's major, you gotta do, all 50 boxes or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we could move to that. I do feel like this is a quicker fix, and in the midst of all the other changes that we're working on, my preference, I guess, would be to go with this and then pick up maybe doing 2 separate checklists or further separating the major and minor point at a future date. But whatever you
This
guys
covers
want.
everything. And it's not that hard.
And,
And
right,
we don't really have that many minor site plans.
well,
Well,
you could say that, or you could say almost all of the ones we see are minor.
Okay. All right.
That's what I would-
And then for that reason, and then with all these minor ones that we see, the things that are not applicable vary. And with some of them, this is not applicable. With others, this is not applicable. So maybe, I don't know, maybe just keep the same checklist and let them sort of decide let them
Yeah,
propose how minor it is by the number of NAs they check
Right,
off.
because then if we divide it, then we're gonna have to just, divide people into this category or that category, and then that will be a bone of contention for us.
And then what starts out to be minor might turn into something major, so
True.
that's,
True, why can't, yeah, right.
for instance, some drainage problems that would have been a minor would have turned into major ones,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, right.
okay? All right, moving right along. You have in front of you you have conditions for driveway construction. And you have wetlands conservation district.
Yeah, but since we missed it out at juniors, so.
Thank
We
you.
came in late.
No problem. Glad you came.
Thank you.
And these are things that Dari has worked on. So I'm going to let Dari explain. These are areas that we've had problems in the past. And as a result of that, Dari has come up with these and he's going to review them with us.
Thank you. Let's start with the wetlands.
You fell for it.
Yeah. Okay, wetlands.
So, as you may recall, I've been, a couple times I think I've circulated a model wetlands ordinance. It was from the DES Innovative Land Use Techniques Handbook. And we looked at it last meeting, or at a recent meeting, talked about some changes that should be made, and talked about sort of doing some more work to meld the two, take our ordinance and keep what's valid from that and mix in the DES elsewhere. And that's what this is. I put some markups on it, and I guess we can start going through it. So let's start right at the beginning. Purpose and intent, I put stars next to those because I kept what was in the Tilton ordinance for those. And so I guess between now and maybe next meeting, my request would be that folks look at these, look at the ones in the DES ordinance, and see if you agree. I felt who am I to make any changes to the purpose and intent? I don't live in Tilton, I'm not a planning board member, so that's why I decided to leave those for now. Okay, let's go down, district boundaries. As you may recall, the first 3 bullet points are straight from the DES model ordinance. The last bullet point is something I proposed we add, and then when I added it, I started looking and I thought, oh geez, that's if there's a puddle the size of this desk that has hydric soils and wetlands vegetation, then this ordinance is saying there has to be a 20-foot buffer all around it. So I thought maybe about limiting, saying it's got to be some size. I don't know what that size would be. I proposed 1,000 square feet, in large part because it seemed like, you know, that's starting to get to the big enough to, well, I don't know, maybe 1,000 is too small. Maybe it should be 10,000. You know, something that gets you to the point where it's something worth preserving, and that you're not, you know, getting these massive buffers that because of there's these tiny little wetlands. So anyway, that's something I'd like you, I request that you think about. Okay, then the model ordinance had a definitions section. I don't believe our current wetlands ordinance has a definitions section, but if you go right, you keep going on and you go into where am I here? The groundwater protection ordinance, that does have definitions in it, and I believe there's some other sections. I think the signage or the lighting has definitions there. And anyway, so what I'm saying is some sections seem to have definitions within the section itself, and others, the definitions are housed within the definition section. So that was another thought.
Probably because they were pulled out at some point like we're doing now.
Right.
And so when they were pulled out, it made sense to put new definitions in there and to bring it from the other.
Yeah, and so I thought, you know, that's a decision you guys ought to make, is how do you want to, as we start to neaten this ordinance, how do we want things to start shaking out and moving? Do we want definitions all to start moving into that front section, or do we want to go the other way and start moving definitions, putting definitions specific to each section within that section? I don't know that I have a preference at this point.
I have a personal opinion, I'm sure everybody else does too, so maybe if we could share our personal opinions,
Sure.
go around and talk about that. Who'd like to start with their personal
I think
opinion?
they should all be in the beginning. I didn't even know that, until you mentioned it, it was broken down like that. So I wouldn't have, I've been like checking in the definitions section up front, and I didn't even think to look back.
In the body.
There's groundwater definitions over here, so too hard to find. What do you guys think? Maybe I'm wrong.
And see, I feel just the opposite.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, of course, of course.
I'm not because,
Yeah, okay.
no, I do because when I'm reading a particular section, I don't wanna have to go back to
Maybe
the
they should be in
front
both.
and look at a definition. And if it's in the front, I don't wanna get mixed up. I don't wanna be
Right.
reading this and go to the front and look for a definition that maybe doesn't apply to this particular section. That's how I feel, but that's me.
But if you need that definition, it could be in, I guess, how would you know which sections? I mean, it could be in a few sections, and then not in the front, and then you're like, ah. Maybe it can be both, could it be both?
I mean, it doesn't I mean, we've gotta come to some kind of consensus when we put it together.
I don't know about both, because I thought we were trying to get rid of the.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
wanna.
maybe that too, yeah, no, I don't know.
But I'm just saying, I just,
What about you?
to me, if I'm reading about wetlands,
Yeah.
I don't wanna stop and go back, say, gee, what is that? If there's a
But yeah.
definition in the body of
Yeah.
this, then I don't have to go back to someplace else to find it. That's,
Right.
Well, it's not really in the body, it's in the beginning of like a chapter or something. So you would still have to flip a page.
Well, the page isn't there, but if you have to go back to the beginning,
But we don't have definitions in all the sections, though.
if you like me.
It's
to get
Well,
lost.
I think if we went to definitions in the section, then we would put all the definitions in the various sections, wouldn't we?
See, when I think about using the zoning ordinance as a reference, there are times you open the zoning ordinance specifically to find the town's definition to a particular word. And I have to say that seems to lend credence to what Ms. Harvey's saying. Much like other reference materials, there's either a glossary at the back, oftentimes there's a glossary at the back that you use for all definitions. And also flipping part, well, I don't know, in my opinion, what other people think.
No, I mean,
Well, no, I think that's
Well,
true.
you're,
It does make sense from that standpoint.
yeah,
If I go to look for wetlands,
right.
if I go to the very beginning and see the definition of wetland.
Something
I-
sorry.
No, I can go either way. I mean, I think it needs to be a consensus on the part of everybody.
Well, can't you put in like C,
Yeah.
page, da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah, thought on that is, I can't remember where I've seen it, but recently I saw a document and everything that was every word that was defined, I think was in italics or something like that, or underlined, or somehow was, so you knew, that's a word that the town has a town-specific definition for. So, we've talked in the past, well, you don't define something if it's just commonly something you can look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary. But then I was thinking afterwards, I think, well, sometimes the town wants to have a specific definition for it. Even though it's a common term, the town wants to clarify.
Like structure.
Yeah, exactly. Or swale, I think was the one,
Or swale, yeah.
came up recently, and I was saying, swale, you don't have to.
Or even buffer.
Swale. Right, exactly, yeah, perfect, right, buffer.
well, we have
everybody-
motor vehicles in here.
motor vehicle, that's a good one.
Yeah, we don't know
Interesting.
what that one is.
That came up big time recently. That's gonna be at the zoning board next week. Yeah, so maybe that would satisfy, so that as you're reading, you don't have to go to the front section to know that the town has a definition, because you see it
In
in that.
italics.
Yeah, what do you guys think of
Oh,
that?
that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. I don't,
Pain to do.
Yeah.
All the italics.
Yeah, probably every now and then.
Typing and
It's hard to catch
turning
everyone,
over.
but
Yeah,
it seems to have value. I feel like it's valuable though.
no, I do too.
Yeah,
No, I think it's a good idea.
that works. We can. Should I keep going?
Yeah,
Okay. And I wrote, there, development and wetlands. Those are two terms that are defined in Tilton zoning ordinance. And so we need to look at, and I guess this would be another time where I'm requesting that you compare the two and make a decision which you would prefer. Development, I think the DES definition is far better. I think our definition of development is poor. Hydric soils and prime wetlands are crossed out because I did a search of the document, and I don't know through my editing or what, I don't find those terms in here. So they would be sitting there by themselves as definitions of terms that are irrelevant to the ordinance, so I propose that we get rid of those. Permitted uses, prohibited uses, conditional uses, these are all right from the DES ordinance. I removed the forestry conditional use, and I put a star next to the agricultural conditional use because I think, there was a court case that said the reason the forestry was pulled out was because there was a court case that said essentially forestry is preempted. The state demonstrates a thorough body of regulation for forestry, therefore the town doesn't have any business monkeying around with it, and I feel like agriculture could very well fall under that same category, so I put a note to consider removing that one as well. Probably no harm in leaving it in the immediate future, but it seems like, you learn from extrapolating from court cases. Sometimes they can apply to other things. If we talk about the recent signage court case, I think I'll point to some examples of how we could extrapolate that should indicate other changes that might be made in other sections of the ordinance. The non-conforming uses, I propose we get rid of because we have a non-conforming use section in our zoning ordinance, and maybe my request would be to look at the non-conforming use section and see if that covers it. If not, we should consider either putting a non-conforming use section back into this or expanding the non-conforming use section of the zoning ordinance to make sure it does cover everything, all our concerns here. There's a long section about the conditional use permit. One thing I noticed about this is it's specific to I don't know. All right. So this is it's talking about conditional use permits specific to wetlands matters, and it got me thinking about. I don't think we have a conditional use permit. Like we have a variance section. There's a special exception section. There's sections that talk about these different permitting processes, but there doesn't seem to be a conditional use permit section. And I just a thought maybe of saying, should we have that, or is it fine? What do you get conditional use permits for? The only thing I can think of is wetlands and groundwater protection district. So anyway, it's probably not very, maybe a less important thing to consider. And then the identification of buffer section at the end there, that's straight from, I replaced the DES language there with Tilton's language. I would say those are the main things I guess I'd want people to look at. I mean, the one other thing is the special provisions section. Those are three things that I realized, I think at last meeting I proposed that we drop the special provisions section. And just before I did that, maybe I should have a strike through this too, to demonstrate that it's a questionable whether it's going to stay or not. But I didn't want to just drop those things right off without at least giving you guys a chance to decide whether you wanted them or not. So maybe put a mark next to special provisions as to say, do we need this section or not? And from there, I guess I could shut up and let you guys decide if this is something you want to work through more tonight, or if it's something you want to take as a homework assignment. I can share this with any board members who aren't here. I think it's only Catherine now that's not here, Ms. Dawson, and certainly share our discussion with her.
Sure should rather be here than rather
Well,
be there.
I'd like to take it home and look at it. I don't know about anybody else.
Compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The only one that I see that I don't have any problem with at all is the identification of the buffer.
You have problems with all
No,
the
I
rest?
don't have a problem.
But I mean, you have problems with everything else?
No, but I have, what I need to look at the
Right,
other
right,
parts
right,
of it,
right.
that's what I'm saying.
She's gonna come back with just one page.
But
Two.
I think, does everybody agree that we had Jason Stock here and we read the court case and Jason went over in detail that court case?
Yeah.
Does everybody agree that that should just come out because we don't have any business being in there?
Right, yeah. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody wanna discuss that or say anything about that? It's clear to me, it was very clear to me based on his,
I think we should take it out.
But it is.
We could vote on that tonight.
Well, no, we'll vote on the whole thing, don't you think?
Well,
When we get to it. But that's out, so we'll just leave it out, we don't need to discuss it anymore, I guess that's what,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
you think that's okay?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have, I tried to look, let me see, definitions for incidental wetlands versus original wetlands, is two different definitions there, like that. You know what I'm talking about?
What was the first term you used?
Incidental versus, this is just,
And what was the other one?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Incidental
Talking to
wetlands.
Sharon.
I don't think that's what you, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think that's what
Do
you,
we
what
have
that
that
term you use.
standard maybe,
You don't mean vernal, do you? You're not talking
No, Vernal, I wouldn't remember that.
Same way.
It was like incidental versus like established wetlands.
prime? Or you're, so you're saying, maybe, not-
Major and minor, but you used other words.
It was
Oh.
incidental in like established, like more permanent type of wetland.
is the idea that, one has functions and one has significant functions and values and the other doesn't?
Maybe, no,
I
I
mean-
don't, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
I was bored and we had some time to kill and she said, oh, that's the most important thing that she could think of was the definition, defining incidental wetlands in your town versus like non-incidental wetlands, and I will just look at that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting, we should talk about it more, I'd be interested, this incidental has me, I can't quite figure out
What
what
is
that
an
means.
It's kind of
Incidental
like
wetland.
that's a good question. I didn't even give it much thought.
I mean, a wetland's a wetland to me.
Incidental wetland sounds like a mix between like a wetland and like a
A
business
bog
term.
and
Yeah.
swamp. I don't
It's like,
know.
I don't know, I'll
This little area that Dario's talking about.
planner in Plymouth, Sharon and I were just, had some time to kill and I just brought it up and she said, oh, well, that's the most important thing that I can think of off the top of my head.
I mean, if this is what she's getting at, to me, there are wetlands that serve a valuable environmental purpose. They have significant functions and values. You'll hear that term used a lot with wetlands. And then there are wetlands that don't. And to me, that's a very significant
Maybe that's
difference.
what it is.
But it's hard, it's hard to, it can be hard to go about assigning, function, which ones are valuable and which ones aren't.
And I found out the hard way that just because something looks like a wetland doesn't make it a wetland.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I would think so.
it has to do with
Very
saturation, soil saturation, and you really, if there's a question about it, you really need to get a soil scientist there, a wetland scientist there. And the Conservation Commission even has, I think, funds for that kind of thing.
Oh.
And if there's any question about it, and we say, well, you need to check that out, we think that's a wetland, then they have to pay for it.
Right, that's in there, yeah,
The person has to pay for it.
They, yeah.
yeah. it's
But
in
there are other times when we have to pay for it, and that's pretty much, that's spelled out.
Under district
And-
boundaries, yeah, right, yeah. I didn't know, I'm not sure about the us paying.
I thought there was, I thought,
There's some, I think I remember, I read it today. Boundaries and
I thought that if we, well, I'll give you an example. There was one out on Grange Road that the client's wetland scientist said that it was not a wetland. We thought it was, and the Conservation Commission said they would pay. But that may have just been an arrangement, in that particular case, that may not be written anywhere. But I
Right.
somehow thought it was written. I know it's written that they have to pay if we ask them to do it.
Right, I think that's all that's in
Well,
here.
Okay.
Maybe the alternative
All
situation
All
is undocumented.
Okay, can we get back to one meeting and,
We were looking up incidental, we couldn't find it.
okay, so is everybody agreeable to take these home and
Yes.
do homework?
Good job on that.
And I'm,
It's page 55.
Very good
in the
job,
open
Dory.
document.
What's that?
it's a very good job.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was important work.
Well, this
Glad
makes
to
it
do it.
kinda easy to.
Yeah.
It does,
It's
I mean,
daunting.
and it's hard, it's sometimes, it's like, yeah, it's hard to get to that point of getting something that you can really start working with, you know, you can
Yeah.
pass around a lot of documents here, look at this, look at that, but it takes sort of some blood, sweat, and tears to get down to something you can really start,
Making a decision on.
Yeah,
'cause it's-
exactly.
I was like, I'm gonna look through this and I'm just
yeah.
like.
The one I don't have a clue about are these buffers, the size of these buffers.
Yeah, yeah, that's good point.
I mean, I would just be guessing.
Oh, here's a thought, we should involve, I wonder if we should involve the Conservation Commission in reviewing this somehow.
We should.
Yep, I definitely think we should.
So let's, do you have any, thoughts? Do you want me to, invite them to the next meeting? Or do you wanna have a discussion with, the chairman?
Well, why don't we, at the next meeting, why don't we firm up what we think this should be?
Okay,
And then the next meeting,
okay,
invite them and say, this is what we came up with. Can we have your
okay.
opinion or your input before we actually make this change?
All right, I'm good with that.
Rather than have them next time when we don't know
Right.
ourselves what we want.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
because they,
a good idea.
we'll get bent out of shape.
Give them our edited version to study and then have it at the next meeting for them
Yeah.
all together go over.
Yeah.
You mean, okay, yep.
So I don't want us looking like we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
And I think if we until we do our own homework and come back and come up with something, then we maybe look like we don't know what we're doing.
okay.
I don't like doing that. Judy and I've been accused of that by the zoning board anyway, so.
It is sort of like you get, maybe slapped either way though, if you include people early on, when you haven't made up your own mind, it creates the impression that you don't know what you're doing, or if you go the other way and wait till you've moved all the way through it, sometimes people come with comments and say, I wish you would have involved us from the beginning.
Well, I think once we
Yeah.
invite them, we'll be open to
Sure.
making changes if,
There we go, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the best
we
way.
don't-
I don't think we're
Like
gonna
idiots when we get
call
them.
them in and say, this is what we've decided and we just want you to know. We're
I mean-
saying, you know, this is what we've worked on and now we're at a point where we're gonna come up with something definite, but we would like your input and so we can come up with something together.
Are we gonna send them a copy of our proposed changes first, that we have agreed on, or whatever, decided that was because so that we don't have to invite them, they sit down and they're like, well, now I need to look at this for a while, and then we need to have another meeting. Maybe we can send it first and say, do all your
Yeah,
research.
we
and
could do
then-
that.
So once we've come to a final, we'll immediately get it to them, not just say, hey, come to the next meeting, we'll share it to you at the meeting.
Right.
Share it with you at the
Yeah.
meeting,
And
and
they're
say,
like,
here
oh,
this
good.
is,
And then look
you're
at
invited to our next meeting, please take a look at it.
it And bring it in.
Yeah.
And bring any suggestions or any additions or,
Okay,
Yeah, so we don't have to drag it out
Deletions
for
or whatever.
months.
yeah, all right,
yeah, okay.
awesome. Well, that's really good, I think we're really moving forward on that. Thank you, guys.
Well,
So
thank you, Dory.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. Next one is basically some cleanup work from last meeting, I guess it was. In addition to the new driveway permit application I circulated, I also handed out a much draftier version of this document right here.
Is that a word?
It's in the scrap.
There's I did put a fair amount of work into this in that, probably almost every one of the, half of them probably have some at least wording changes made to them, and others are maybe a little bit more significant than that. Let's see here, I don't really have any in particular that I wanted to call your attention to, maybe similarly, just to have you guys take a look at it. Many of the changes I made were to bring it into compliance, or what am I trying to say, so it matches the subdivision regulations. You know, an example would be number 8, said whenever possible, a minimum 250 feet, and then for all other driveways, it said 365 feet, and the zoning ordinance, and the subdivision regulations say 400 feet, so I changed it to match the subdivision regulations. Same with number 9. There was number 3. Catherine said, "Hey, take a look at DOT's language on that." I couldn't find DOT's language on that, so that is something that I'll check with Catherine on and see what she knows about that. But maybe in the same way as the wetlands ordinance, and just maybe something for you guys to take a look at along with the application itself, and see if it looks good. If so, I would say that maybe we should make a motion at an upcoming meeting. Neither of these documents are subdivision regulations, they're not subdivision regulations, they're not, it's just application forms. So they could be approved basically immediately at a meeting, whenever we're ready. That's it on that.
Number 3 say that all driveways have to be, so you can't have a dirt driveway? Am I reading this?
Maybe the wording should be changed, actually. All portions of, all portions of driveways. So, I think the intent there is that, yeah, right, you
So it
cannot,
has to have a 12-foot apron.
right, that's paved or, yeah, and then you
Just
can
like the
go to,
state.
yeah, and then you can go to gravel or whatever you want, dirt. Yeah.
Can we
that's the
say
intent there.
the apron of the driveway? Or,
Or you could, or you, what about saying the portion of the, any portion of the driveway within the town's right of way? I don't know.
The state
Which is
spells
at
it out.
4 feet?
Look at the state one, it spells it out very,
couldn't
it's
find
like
it.
it's 12 feet that you have.
I couldn't find the state's one. Can you help me with that?
I'll find it for you.
Okay.
And they refer to it as the apron, so we can,
Okay.
which is,
that's why I thought they did.
Right, yeah.
12 feet?
I looked through driveway permit applications and driveway permits that had been issued,
might not even be.
and didn't find it in either of those, and their manual, didn't find it in any of those 3 places.
We did ours.
Oops.
One thing,
Where did the idea for 19 come from?
What number?
it's from the subdivision regulations.
Jeez.
A driveway is in excess of 100 feet in length shall be designed.
I thought you said 19 feet, that's I'm like, where?
Yeah, it's from the subdivision regulations. This is a document that I believe Dennis Allen and Catherine Dawson created 3 or 4 years ago,
If it's,
2 or 3 years
if
ago.
it's somebody's
I think
private
it was
driveway,
Dennis
why
and
is that our
Sandy.
business?
Ah,
If you wanna build your house up top of the hill, you build it to whatever standards you're gonna live with it, it's not up to us to tell them to make it conform to road standards.
well,
No, it's like-
the subdivision regulations do require that, and Ms. Dombitsky is certainly
Yeah. Knows
grappling with that firsthand, yeah.
That's the fire department.
I think it's a safe, right, safety, probably
Yeah, that's what the fire
Definitely
department
safety.
says, safety.
the
That's what it
authority is
is.
derived, yeah, from a safety concern.
Yeah.
yes,
Is this about the length of most driveway permits in towns? I wonder.
It's a lot.
It's wicked long, isn't
Isn't
it?
it? It seems long. I
Wait.
don't know much about driveway permits.
Huh?
Hmm?
What do you mean? This isn't a permit. This is
This
just,
is a
permit.
it's a guidance document. It's not an application, it's not anything. I mean, we
Okay.
could, this doesn't have to exist. We throw the thing in the garbage. It's
No,
supposed to
let's not
help
do that.
people. What, I mean, what's that?
Don't throw it away.
It's supposed to help people. It's intended to,
Construction. Oh, okay. This
I mean,
is-
I guess another way of using it is,
Yeah.
I don't know if I, see the bold part there, upon approval of the location of the driveway entrance, it is agreed that, it almost suggests that maybe there should be a line at the bottom that they sign and it should become part of the driveway application. But then, that's not maybe, I'd rather, I guess, not do that, because some of these things might be waived.
So
and
we
so-
give this out, or we don't?
My thought would be it would be stapled to the driveway permit application.
Okay, I'm a little confused, because at the top it says, non-compliance with any of the following conditions shall result in rejection of application.
Okay.
So, as far as I know, this is mandatory stuff, it's part of the permit, right?
Right, these are things you must do. This
have
document
to do
doesn't need to
these.
exist.
Right, yeah. So what I'm saying is this about the type of length of requirements
Oh, I
is
would-
typical
I would
for
think
towns.
so. I
Or
mean,
is it longer or shorter?
I don't know, but, I mean, these, I
Seems
can't
like
imagine
a
a
lot.
town not, like, you look down the list, they're all things that are, I mean, the state certainly addresses all of these. I'd be surprised if there were a lot of these that towns don't have something to say about. Right? I mean,
I don't see any on here that aren't necessary.
yeah.
I don't.
I mean, I haven't gone over them with a fine tooth comb, but I know that,
The driveway's kind of a big deal.
huh?
The driveway's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
It's more than-
And I know that visit we made to that, they knew, he knew all of these. I mean, people know they can't just put a driveway in that has water rushing, I mean, that's,
Well, people should know that,
well, I
but
think they do.
no,
Yeah.
no, things will come
Yeah.
up before
No.
where, that's why they have the driveway, that's why they have this, because people will build driveways that cause problems, and I've seen it come up.
Well, not if they have to have a permit.
But I think along
But
what
they
Chairman
still
Alden
permit.
is saying, I think any people who are familiar with driveways and driveway permitting, I think would look at this and say, again, it's just my opinion, it would look at this and say, yeah, those are all pretty normal, standard requirements.
They could be, like I said, I
I
don't
think
know
so.
much, I know.
Put in the driveways too.
Not I'm just, that's why I was asked. Just a question.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably about to the level of most communities.
And I think, I believe it was Dennis and Sandy that put this together.
Okay,
And Dennis would certainly have known, I mean, he's the person who interacted with people who were doing driveways, and he wouldn't have put things in here, I don't
good
think,
point, yeah, right.
you know.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's all relevant.
Okay, well, I think, again, thank you, I think
Thank
this
you.
is good.
Yeah, good. Let's
Again,
just
we'll
move
go over this
forward.
if there's anything, and we'll find out what that number 3, what it should, if it should not be, if it should be something else. With all of us looking, I think I know where it is too. Okay, moving right along,
Yeah.
Why don't you do this all day?
Anything else on any of these?
Something that we'll need to do, if not tonight, another time, is you as a board voted to change the subdivision regulations to authorize the planning board or its designated agent to be the issuer of driveway permits. We don't get a whole lot of driveway permit applications, but maybe there should be a motion at some point, either this meeting or maybe next meeting, to name that designee. Did you?
don't think so.
Who do you recall naming?
I thought it was naming you.
I think we talked about it. I'm not sure that we made a
Not
motion.
you specifically, but
The
the
land use.
the land use
coordinator,
officer.
Well, I'll make such a motion.
Yeah.
I thought we did it.
Well, we don't,
No,
it's,
It's different, right?
I just,
enough, I don't,
it's in the minutes.
I wonder, do you wanna have this like? I don't know.
Probably should.
I mean, I feel like that was what we all talked about and discussed. You know,
Didn't we do it at our last meeting?
what's that?
Didn't we do it at our last meeting?
it's not in the minutes.
I think it's, you named planning board or its designated agent. And,
But I don't think we've done.
Yeah, I don't.
I guess, maybe we, if, I'll leave it.
I don't see it, it would be in here if that were the case,
Right.
and I don't see anything in here.
But, that's what the zoning board does?
I wasn't here for that one, so I don't know.
Because I remember reading some minutes, and it was
Well-
in some minutes.
I mean, if you guys all recall clearly that the planning board has designated, I don't know that a motion is necessarily necessary, then I think we're good to go for now.
Okay.
Is that right?
Is that, are you talking about the subdivision sections too? I mean, that's that.
No, that's done.
No,
Okay, it's done to the point of saying the planning board or its designated agent, so that's all done. Now, just wanna make sure the planning board has decided who its designated agent is. And if you guys are saying, yeah, we already dealt with that, then that's
Yeah.
fine, I hear you.
I was under the impression it was just like whatever our fancy was, like who designated this
Yeah,
person, we
yeah.
designate that person, or whatever we feel like at the time.
Right?
I don't know, but maybe, and then I'm wrong.
Kind of
I don't,
like that.
I don't
thought it
think,
was
I don't know that
supposed
you're
to
no,
be-
what,
wrong.
here's
Yeah.
what we approved. We approved that the planning board or its designated agent is the entity that shall issue driveway permits.
Right,
We just didn't say who that entity was.
I didn't think we needed to.
that's fine.
I mean, I guess we do.
No, maybe not. I
Can
don't
we
know.
case by
We have
case
different
basis?
things that says,
Well, I mean, like,
Jules is gonna be the agent today.
I feel like
An
we can do
entity,
that.
we have an entity. Call forth the entity.
Star Wars.
Well, wasn't there a movie called The Entity? I think there
So,
was.
So, weird movie.
Alright. Well-
Which entities in your subdivision, subtitle?
What
Planning board entity.
else?
That means we're gonna have a big one.
I guess I don't really have, there are some must changes in the zoning ordinance, but I don't know, exactly, I don't wanna hijack the agenda. I have some,
Why don't we save those for,
that's fine,
Other
yeah.
business
They're
in the
easy
next meeting.
fixes, yep, no problem. I could document them better if, now that I've done this work, I can,
Okay.
yeah.
all right, and I think we have enough homework for next time anyway. Because I have to look up some things and the definitions that I'm not sure about. Okay, the next thing I want to bring up, did everybody have an opportunity to go to Tilton School and look at the,
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
and the reason I'm bringing that up is they're gonna be here the next meeting. And I like everybody's opinion, and I don't mind starting with mine. That's,
Wait, let me just think for a minute.
What are we looking at, like
the trees and
The
everything.
screen.
that-
trees over the electric
Yeah,
box and
Mr.
stuff?
Jones.
So we take a 5-minute
Is that-
recess?
I asked you, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, yeah.
I thought I asked you beforehand if we could do that.
Trees.
I'm sorry. Yeah, all right, 5 minutes. Thank you. I have to do some- Is that what we want to do? 5-minute
Yes,
recess? Okay.
Second.
So, should we have the, look at it? I'd like
What?
See the,
I'm bringing you chocolate labs.
Alice said you said chocolate booze.
Alright, let's go, we're back, our 5-minute recess is up, back to order. Alright, we have the draft minutes of October 27th, has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve them, no one has any discussion, or,
just had one, can I
Correction.
see it? I was looked at it online. Remember the section, the chicken section, it's always about that. I just wondered if we should, it said, it does not appear that citizens are interested in allowing animals like chickens. Should it say, it does not appear that the planning board is interested? Or something to the fact that it's not the citizens deciding?
But we said it based on the fact that we're not getting a lot of influx of people concerned about it, citizens concerned
and that's
about
why
it.
we said
Oh,
citizens.
okay, all right. It doesn't, okay, wasn't,
So we didn't
wasn't
think
clear
that
to
since
me
people aren't.
reading it.
It's also what I said. It's not a, what do I wanna say it?
A definitive decision,
It's not a documentation of the,
definitive action.
yeah.
Oh, okay, this is what you said. I
Right.
guess I just
So
skimmed
if I
through
said,
it.
you know,
Send that based on-
what's something crazy? God.
it's not-
Judy's
No, I
hair
get
is
it, yeah.
pink, yeah.
I get it.
Judy's hair is pink, then I would write, Dari, he said
Right.
that Judy's hair is pink, and that would be wrong, but it would still be an accurate.
Based on the comments of board members. Okay, that's fine.
That's what I said. If I was wrong, I was wrong, but for us to
No,
change
you're right,
it would be
I
changing what I
correct
said.
skimmed it, and I
We
just
can't
saw,
correct somebody's
I
statement.
saw board members, it does not appear citizens.
But
voted it.
he said, right, yeah.
This paragraph was all about you, obviously.
It was,
And
it was
none of
all
us.
about me.
Alright,
I make a
Change
motion
what I said.
to accept the planning board minutes of October 27th, 2015 as written.
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? And one abstention.
We know.
Alright, any other business to bring before the board? I do have one. Any word on from the attorney on the Belmont issue?
Oh, no, there was a court proceeding last Thursday.
Yeah.
And the two sides, town of Tilton being one side and the other side being represented by the town of Belmont and, Blow Brothers, DBA, Best Way.
Yeah.
And they made their cases. What was stated was that the Belmont side is saying the whole thing needs to go out the window because it wasn't filed on time. And town of Tilton is saying, no, it was indeed filed on time. Here's the reasons why, here's how it was. The other, stuff that was loosely discussed, although it was intended to be a preliminary hearing not based on merit, just more based on the circumstances of the filings. But it became clear that there was going to be an argument about whether indeed there is any claim. Hi.
Actually, stick around.
What's it?
Tell them to sit.
Oh. The idea that a regional, that the project that was approved in July, they're saying had no regional impact.
They, Blow Brothers is saying,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
Belmont.
I think there's there's a lot of, seems like, there's there was a planning board decision in January and a planning board decision in July. And I think it's hard to separate the two. So-
Very hard.
Yeah, and then that's where you're saying, well, you can't really separate them. You can't say that the July one doesn't have, I don't know.
You
Sorry.
should have come to the motocross one.
Oh, yeah,
That was unbelievable. I still haven't gotten over that one.
yeah. I heard about it.
Well,
The story in the paper didn't,
It was table.
it didn't make
It was
as
awful.
exciting
It
as-
was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, I have to have.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Why do you entertain? Why don't you just say?
You just all get up and leave, what happens?
Because I like it.
Stays open.
Everybody's gonna be like,
Kind of the morning camera still rolling all night.
There's a motocross on 106 now. And it's in a pit, a gravel